Welcome to the Futures Here special series hosted by Creative Brands. The Futures Here showcases leaders and thinkers from the creative industry, namely advertising, media, communication, branding. My name is KG Srinivas. I'm Editor-in-Chief of Creative Brands, a portal that covers the global creative industry and economy. Today we have with us Anil Nair, CEO of VMLY&R India. Anil is an innovative thinker, an integrated solutions crusader, and believer in sustainable business growth. Anil oversees VMLY's India operations, driving growth and building on the agency's integrated service offerings across creative, technology, and data services. Prior to joining his current position, Anil was the CEO of Digital and Managing Partner for L&K Saatchi & Saatchi India, and was part of the founding team at Law & Kenneth Communications 2002. He was recognized for his role in helping build Law & Kenneth Communications from the ground up into India's largest independent agency, prior to its merger with Saatchi & Saatchi in 2014. By training, Anil is a strategic planner and has also managed P&L responsibilities. Anil, welcome to The Futures Here.
Thank you, Srini. After a while, I heard my entire CV being read back at me, so thank you. It was like a trip down memory lane.
I guess we need a reminder from time to time.
Who better than you to kind of remind me? So thank you, Srini.
Thank you. I was thinking what could be that point of inflection or provocation to start our conversation today. So I went back to an interview where you say, as an agency, we bring the right brain and left brain kind of an approach to business problem solving. Today, more than ever, given the times that we've come to inhabit, can you reflect a bit more on that foundational statement?
So, Srini, traditionally, we've always been, a certain kind of business. So, where the business side looked at the business problems, and then they came to advertising agencies to tackle the creative side of things. We were the dream merchants, the mavericks who kind of, we took a business problem and then we did a creative leap on it and hopefully came back with something magical that has built many a brand in this country. Times are changing, and one of the primary reasons for this is the emergence of the digital economy. The advent of digital, the advent of data, the advent of the fact that e-commerce, for example, has literally mandated that we have a combination of right and left brain, a combination of creativity and technology, a combination of data and commerce. And a lot of them are melding together in hitherto unknown, combinations in that sense. And that is the beauty of the time that we live in right now. So everything that we know of brand building, as it has existed till now, continues. But the magic of this, along with when I pour in like one measure of data, one measure of commerce, one measure of platform thinking in that sense, some kind of digital transformation. And when I put all of this together, this new formula is what you see at play right now, which brands and organizations, not just in India, but around the world, are to grips with.
And you take this forward. You've always, in fact, spoken about marrying data and creativity, which is what you just spoke about. Could you possibly illustrate it with an example in order for our audience to understand the world of insight mining, branding, and consumer experience being at the heart of it all?
Sure. Like you rightly said, Srinivas, at the core of it is the consumer, and in more ways than one, we've always said that the consumer is queen or king. But I feel that in today's time, I think he's elevated himself to the emperor. The world begins and ends with with the customer and the consumer in that sense. What do I mean by that? Uh, the Your customer is today leaving imprints all over, okay, and is leaving an imprint right from the time that he or she starts searching for your category or your brand, all the way to researching about it, all the way to creating a consideration set of multiple brands in his or her little mental black box. From that point, referrals, talking to their peers, deciding, coming back multiple points of time, from there leading to some kind of an action, commerce, and going on from there to literally be able to refer your brand. Willy-nilly, the customer is leaving almost like a breadcrumb trail of data and insights, which in earlier times was difficult to measure or capture. Today, thanks to the digitization of the world, it becomes that much easier for us to be able to track this customer, track that customer's behavior, track the little pivots that the customer is doing in their journey towards consumption, and brands that manage to create an ecosystem to be able to kind of capture this data, clean this data up, massage this data, derive insights out of it, not just as a one-off, but almost like a muscle memory within the organization, use techniques like artificial intelligence and machine learning to literally derive insights on scale, are the organizations I feel that are going to completely derive the benefits of this new science in that sense.
In fact, which brings us to the question of digital. But I'll take a pause there. And you spoke about the customer being not the king or the queen, but the emperor or the empress herself. I'm thinking back to what, and it is ascribed to Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Customer is king," in your premises. I was thinking, does that definition, primary definition, of course, continues to be the customer is king. But there's a civilizational synapse there, way back from when Gandhi spoke about customer being king, and today customer being king. Do you see a fundamental ideological shifter in understanding who that customer is, and as a customer continues to be the primary concern of businesses?
That's a fantastic question. The customer is the customer is the customer and will continue to be enjoying primacy in times to come. But what is interesting is a lot of other things around the customer has changed. So the context has changed, the content has changed, the connection possibilities have changed, and therefore the attention span of the customer has changed. So the customer continues to be as demanding as the customer is right from when it was during Gandhi's time to today. But I feel that there is some kind of an content and an information overload in today's times, which makes it that much more manic and that much more important for us to kind of gravitate towards the right kind of customer, deliver him brand content in the right context, and hope that the customer makes the right choice in commerce. This is where I feel there has been a shift. So going back, the customer remains the same. Yes, the world has changed. The fundamental choices have changed, but also the ecosystem around the customer has changed, which is kind of necessitating this discussion that we are having.
So we move from Gandhi to digital, inevitably. And you have said often that digital is not a medium, but it's a way of life, particularly from the customer point of view, from the experiential point of view. Now, do you think both creators as well as consumers regard it as a way of life, regardless of the fact that digital is a ubiquitous phenomenon? It's all around us. Can you delve into this idea of digital as a meta medium, as a medium that completely runs our life today? Well,
Yes. Again, an interesting question, and I would hark back to Gandhi here. If Gandhiji was alive today, I think he would be one of the most social media savvy, a person who would literally be able to mine this medium to its full possible advantage, because he did most of the things that we see today in a time when there was absolutely no connectivity and no technology. He managed to take simple ideas like satyagraha and the non-violence and spread it among so many people, and that too people of such diverse backgrounds and states and kind of geographical reach in that sense. So I believe from a metaphorical perspective there is something to learn from that philosophy that you spoke about, and coming back therefore to this way of life question that you asked. The reason why I feel that when we started off with digital, and as is the want, we compared digital to just another medium. So there was television, there was radio, there was outdoor, and then there was digital. And I don't blame us for having considered it that way. But slowly but surely, and that's the nature of the human being, in the sense that we tend towards convenience, and somewhere and ubiquitously this medium has seeped into many other aspects of our life. And a prime example for me, Srinivas, is the adoption curve that we see. This medium allows people to use and discard, in the sense. So it's in that sense a very open source medium, which is a sentient being in itself, and there is no like a central body dictating what people need to consume or how people need to use it. But it's almost it's an organic inside out adoption mechanism that people are kind of using to enjoy this medium. I'll give you a classic example, which is, you have my grandmother. She came to Bombay, and she is very technologically unsavvy, to the point that she realized that maybe Skype is a very good way for her to be in touch with her grandchildren in the US. And she literally jumped through many technology hoops and curves to adopt Skype, because Skype was convenient to her at that point of time. Many of us have suddenly adopted delivery services. Many of us overnight have let go of black and yellow taxis and suddenly adopted this entire radio taxis, or the Ubers and the Olas of the world. So in that sense, digitization and the use of digital technology and the use of digital platforms literally has begun to kind of either create an alternate reality or a hybrid reality, where we use both offline and online technologies today, with the end goal, which is make our lives more and more convenient.
Right. Anil, do you think, while this is ubiquitous as we spoke, it has such a powerful influence on each and every action of ours on a day-to-day basis. Do you think the digital is understood as much as probably it is obscure to a lot of us? Does it continue to be largely top-down driven? And in fact, interestingly, you said once how the operating system probably hasn't changed.
Yeah. As is, and this is where I want to kind of pull back to the industrial economy, which lasted for, so many years, multiple centuries. I believe we are in the absolute minuscule early period of the digital economy in that sense. And right now is also the handover period. The world that used to run, societies that used to run on manufacturing economies, labor, factory workers, is now part of the knowledge economy, the digital economy. Many of the constructs that we've that we know of, and many of the constructs that are now being questioned thanks to the pandemic as well. A classic one being work from home, the other one being the ability to remote work, and therefore the opportunities it is kind of thrown up, and a whole bunch of those. I believe that it will take a little time before the complete understanding of this as a medium seeps down to every citizen and every strata of society in that sense. Till then, I believe that there are two kinds of things happening. One is a top-down, infrastructure-driven kind of adoption, which is you have 4G, and then you have 5G, and then you have the government kind of putting in infrastructural inputs to ensure more adoption. And the second is a very, very bottom-up adoption, which is based on things like language, which is based on things like geographical distances, especially in countries like India, on the fact of convenience, on commerce, for example, and the ability for people to be able to do commerce and in exchange currency. I believe that there will be both a bottom up and a top down adoption, and somewhere it will meet in the middle as and when the market matures. I am beginning to see in markets like South Korea, markets like China, where they are at a much advanced stage of adoption. India is going through its own journey and cycle, but I'm very, very bullish given our youth demographic, given English as a common binding language across, and generally given the love for content amongst the Indians, our general curiosity as a nation, our diaspora that is spread all over the world. I believe we are in a good place to be exploiting this when the sweet spot actually happens, which is not too far away.
And in fact, what has this digital revolution, and in fact, you talk about it still being in its infancy, maybe, but it has brought about a seismic change in terms of civilization change. For example, we're sitting at home at the press of a button on the mobile phone, you transact, you carry out your banking transactions, you order food, you don't even step into a bank. I mean, there was a time when we would go into a bank to get a draft made. It would take half a day there to do all of that. Things have changed so much in our day-to-day life. As a creator, as a imaginative, creative content creator, what do you think has digital done to us at a very civilization point of view?
I believe that digital is rewiring us as we speak, in more ways than one, in the way, in some really, really core areas, which is interaction with each other, interaction with the ecosystem, interaction with society, interaction with the basic, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If I go bottom up, the way we stay, the ways we travel, and what is even interesting, Srini, is how some of these services are morphing into something else. So, what started off as maybe a social media network is now morphing into something else. Something started as a peer-to-peer messaging network is now becoming a lifesaver, for example. But where I feel true traction and true momentum will get built when fundamental areas get affected. For example, medicine, access to medicine in a large country like ours, politics, and giving people a voice, disenfranchised people a voice across the country thanks to digital education. In a country like ours where it is still challenging to kind of get the right kind of education given the competition, I would really see digital flowering and maturing when it starts affecting things like this. For example, remote medicine. India has got a not so healthy doctor to patient ratio. Digital can actually change that game. A doctor can access that many more patients and vice versa, and at least basic conditions can be attended to That in turn will make our people healthier, which in turn will kind of get them to kind of be input more into the nation's economy. A lot of it, and it goes back to my favorite example of wolves being introduced into the Yellowstone, and they saw that just by that introduction of a wolf, some 40 other species and a lot of the other ecosystem kind of prospered and thrived. And that is where I feel, those what I call tipping points in digital. What we are using right now is still superficial vanity digital, which is important, but I see digital affecting our lives even more fundamentally.
Anil, you've been a consistent advocate of brand connectedness and co-creation by the customer, as it were. Can you reflect on this twin idea of brand connectedness and co-creation at some length?
I just feel that, and this is a story that a statement that I heard somewhere, which is, if somebody likes your brand, they will buy your brand. But if somebody really loves your brand, then the person will talk about your brand and kind of ensure that, that person is an ambassador for your brand. And you see brands like that, and where there is a high degree of brand love, that is kind of displayed almost as, as if they're defending the brand against, and that for me, in the core of it is connectedness, because we are human beings at the core of it. And one of the basic fundamental things that drive us is the need for belonging and the need for connectivity. Brands at some point had a slightly top-down approach to brand building, not because they didn't want to, but because there weren't enough mediums and touch points that allowed them to do that. I just feel that the entire thing has become that much more democratic, and today brands can talk to customers rather than talking down to customers. And more beautifully, brands can talk to customers while customers are talking to other customers. So you literally, it's like joining a campfire, and brands are now joining these various campfires that are lit around. And that is for me what is fundamentally kind of changed, and which is where I feel, one, connectivity and connectedness as a concept. And the second piece is co-creation, where if a consumer truly is connected to you, then when the consumer kind of co-creates with you, co-creates content, it can be any kind of co-creation, co-creates a feedback remark, co-creates some kind of an input, co-creates by buying your product or by repeatedly buying your product, or shows loyalty. I just feel that, it's literally coming to fruition because of the fact that brands have fundamentally changed their top-down approach to a more talking to approach.
And what are those intangibles in this co-connectedness? Is it possible to do with ethics of the brand espouses, or the consistent quality that it delivers, or the value that it delivers? What are those intangibles you think play a critical role in this co-connectedness?
No, you said the most fundamental thing that is required, Srini, which is in the past, a brand kind of, had a strategy, released a few pieces of content, it went on television. A few months later, you kind of measured the impact. The entire process took anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to a year. Then you got back, and then you did another campaign, and then you did another campaign. You measured equity over a point of time, and the brand grew. But there was still a distance between the brand and the consumer. In the sense, the only way I could connect with the brand is to buy it off the retail shelf, and that was the end of it. Today, what is happening is, because of the ubiquitous nature and the fact that I can reach the brand and the brand can reach the consumer at the speed of thought, almost, it is really, really important that brands show their real authentic side, and consumers have got this little authentic detector going, which is, is the brand authentic enough? And it is difficult to fake it because you put yourself out there. You're there every day posting something on social media. You're changing your products on your marketplace page. There are people writing about you. You can outsource this to an agency, but the point is, if there is a drop in authenticity, and if these things aren't well defined and well articulated, I believe that consumers have got their bullshit meter on to be able to kind of catch it and move on to brands that show a higher degree of authenticity.
Tell us something about what you call scalable content and connected commerce. I believe these are also closely linked organic ideas of what we just spoke about.
Yes. Uh, Brands need to stop looking at them only as producers of the product, but almost producers of content that is related to the product as well. And most of the brands at VML YNR that we kind of connect with, one of the things that we do is try and create content creation muscle within these brands, which is a skill and a strategy and a investment that brands need to make to be able to do that. Saying, I am not just a producer of the product, but I'm also a producer of the allied content that goes along with the product that I make or the brand that I make. This needs to be an always on investment, an always on attitude, and an always on mentality that brands today, more and more brands are kind of adopting in that sense. What this also does is actually opens up an opportunity, Srini, of allowing commerce at any point of time. The traditional thought process that I need to go to a retail shop to buy something is over. I can be bought at any point of time. I can be bought while somebody's surfing social media. I can be bought when two friends are chatting on WhatsApp. I can be bought while I am searching for something else. I can be bought while I'm watching a movie on Netflix. So the point is, brands need to be ready to sell at any point of time that the consumer wishes, and which is where for which we need great content and we need different kinds of content. And therefore these 2 points that you raised, which is scalable always on content and connected commerce, both of them are interlinked.
And then to move to a question of the industry, I mean, last year, the immediate past has seen a number of mergers and acquisitions, in one sense, leading to a consolidation in the industry. In fact, across industries, people have spoken against consolidation. However, given the nature of our industry, there's been greater consolidation and greater integration as well. Bringing to the table a large number of capabilities for both agencies and brands as well. Now, what is your, say, crystal gazing, if you were to look at it? What would be the long-term state of play in the industry in light of this consolidation and integration? And of course, a large number of smaller agencies have also come out of this.
Sure. Anybody who stayed long in this industry knows that we go through these cycles of consolidation and then specialization and back to consolidation again. But now I feel that the consolidation has been dictated by the consumer and therefore the marketing company, and therefore it's kind of a almost urgent demand that has kind of been relayed back to the agencies, and therefore there is this consolidation happening, which is it's become an imperative today to put the consumer in the center and kind of create a connected consumer journey, and therefore multiple talents and multiple skill sets need to kind of come together to be able to deliver that. There is another way of doing it, which is you bring multiple partners on board and each of them kind of play together to be able to do that. That's also a model, and many people follow that model as well. But more often than not, I believe that you need a bit of a fireplace approach where you keep the consumer in the center, the various consumer personas, the business problem that the brand is facing, the competitive shifts that are happening, and then create a cross-functional team of experts. And when I mean experts, real experts, and these could be data, these could be platform experts, these could be insight miners, research professionals, creative people, publishing people, content, social media people, connections people. All of these people need to kind of come together to solution in a way which is seamless, and which is this recent bout of consolidations that you're seeing.
To further this discussion, if you could reflect on the VML and YL experience, about the coming together, the marriage of the two agencies, as it were, and while you brought together great power, the two agencies, how did you manage the internal cultural change, internal creative cultures? How did you synthesize that, and where you are currently?
I was not there when this thing happened, but hearsay in terms of what actually happened. It also happens when there is a natural, like a cultural cohesion between two entities in that sense, and not all entities have to kind of merge and gel. And in that sense, I think it's also an element of, the fact that both these organizations had that little cultural magnetism for almost seamlessly kind of coming together. VML, which was a 20-year-old agency, and then you had YNR, which was a much older agency. There was a technology, data, commerce focus in one. There was, the other one was a classic kind of an agency in that sense. One level is this cultural melding that I spoke about. And the second big piece, I feel, Srini, is empathy, because, you need to kind of look at the best of what the other can bring, and figure out, how best can I kind of use the talent and the skills that entity brings to for that person's benefit and also for my benefit. And I believe that the empathy quotient that exists within VMLYNR has also added to the reason why there's almost a seamless single organization called VMLYNR around the world in very quick time.
And that's quite a mouthful, when there's a VMLYNR.
They're like the alphabet soup.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, one question, Anil. Can you tell us a campaign or two that's been very dear to your heart for either aesthetic reasons or ideational excellence or commercial consequence? It could be within your agency or any other campaign that has really sort of touched you and you thought, this is a great campaign.
Sure. I would like to pick up three, and there are hundreds of really beautiful campaigns all over the world, and I would be doing injustice to pick any of them over the other, and which is the reason why I will play safe and just pick up a couple over the last year and a half from VMLYNR, because I think I'll be able to kind of articulate and explain better. One of them is something done by our Polish agency, by my counterparts in Poland, which I thought was really beautiful, which was one of the creative people, I think, one day was going through the classified newspaper ads, and they realized that the oldest porn magazine in Poland was for sale for a pittance, and they all pooled together and they bought that porn magazine, and then they literally created a problem, as in defined a problem there, which is, the entire thing of the objectifying of women, the male gaze, and a whole bunch of issues that come along with porn. And they created a campaign called The Last Ever Issue, which is they literally got a whole bunch of progressive feminist writers, and they deconstructed and reconstructed the entire porn magazine and put it back out there, calling it The Last Ever Issue. And obviously the target audience, which is men, bought into the magazine to realize that, there is actually a message in the medium. This campaign went on to win a whole bunch of awards in Poland, globally, and continues to inspire. It's been a while before, it's been, I think, a couple of years, but it still continues to kind of inspire people. The second one, and I'll tell you the common thread between all these three. The second one is what we did for Wendy's in the US, where Wendy's doesn't do frozen beef. Many of the other QSR joints did that. How do we kind of communicate this message to this new, tomorrow audience? What we did was we kind of, in their favorite game, we kind of had freezers put up, which these gamers could go and destroy. And through gaming, we communicated a message which traditionally would have been a TVC or a press ad. The third one is what we did locally in India, which is right at the start of the pandemic for Colgate, where we realized that there's a whole bunch of dentists network that Colgate has access to, and a whole bunch of people who were during the early part of the pandemic struggling at home with toothache and other oral care problems. Why don't we kind of convert both of this and get get some synergies going? We created Dentist for Me, which was a platform where we got these dentists to give live consultation to patients who needed their service. The common thread, Srini, in all these three is the changing idiom and grammar and syntax of advertising. One doesn't know where advertising ends and where an act starts, where creativity ends and where technology starts, where communication ends and where culture starts. And that, for me personally, as a student of advertising, is the greatest takeaway, whether it's done by VML or whether it's done by some really brilliant agencies all over the world. For me, culture changing work, sustainable work, society improving work is what we as an industry should focus and concentrate on.
In fact, you stole my last question. However, if you permit me, may I ask you, you spoke about the essential dharma of advertising. Advertising in one way probably is the zeitgeist of our times, the spirit of the times in a way. At the same time, it is also informed by societal change and mores and all of that. Do you think advertising at a deeper level is sociology in action at a fundamental level? Is sociology in action? It's a transformative axiom.
I totally think so. So we are both the problem and the cure at the same time, and we need to be aware of that. And the advertising industry, we need to own up to that responsibility. And even as a practitioner of this craft, I believe that the entire consumption acceleration that advertising in many ways has contributed to over the last 100 years. And the reason why I use the word accelerator, because it's truly accelerating, and it's like a runaway car, going out of control, as we see, has had its deleterious side effects on society, effects on the environment, and effects on the way we have and what we are going to bequeath to our future generations. And I'm nobody to sit in judgment of what has happened, but I believe it's also now our responsibility to create this sustainability ethos, inclusivity ethos and try and use our offices, use our creativity, use our skills to be able to also bring the balance that the world desperately needs.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you so much for those valuable insights. Thank you.
It was a real pleasure, Srini, talking to you as always. So thank you so very much.